Welcome everyone to this McGill send-off. So happy to have so many people joining us this evening, or perhaps this afternoon for you, so welcome. Want to congratulate all the students who are joining us this evening, parents who may be watching as well with their students. You are coming to McGill at a very exciting time as we enter our third century. And in choosing to come to McGill, you will be studying alongside some very motivated, passionate students from all across the world, including the US. Just to introduce myself, I am Joelle Niche. I work as a student recruitment officer at McGill University. And I actually wear many hats because in addition to working at McGill, I'm a McGill alumna, having earned a Bachelor of Arts honors degree in anthropology. And I'm also a parent. My eldest daughter just finished her first year at McGill. She's earning a Bachelor of Arts with a major in environment. So I'm very pleased to be here to welcome you tonight alongside our panelists. So just to mention that before I quickly introduce the panelists who are kindly joining us this evening, mention that this is really part of a series of send-offs. There'll be other activities that will be happening that, leading up to the beginning of the school year that could be of interest to you. The intent is really to help support you, both students and parents, particularly through this first year as you transition from high school to coming to McGill University. So making sure that you understand that you are not alone in this process, that McGill is here to support you. So just a little bit of information. So we'll be beginning with a presentation with my colleague, April. If you want to say hello, April. And after that, we'll be entering a Q&A session where you will be able to, of course, to post questions in the chat, and we will be bringing some of these questions. Some of the questions could be responded to in the chat, but of course, we want to also bring these questions to a discussion right here, face-to-face in Zoom. So just to introduce, so I mentioned April is here with us tonight. She'll be speaking in a moment. We also have Neil Merker, who is a very involved McGill parent of a proud recent graduate, but also of another incoming student. So he will be here to answer some questions and to explain a little bit some of his involvement at McGill. If you want to just wave, Neil, he's right there. Thank you. He's joining us from his car this evening, so thank you very much. We also have Christopher, who is a current McGill student. There he is, and so he will also be answering questions and talking a little bit about his involvement at McGill. And we also have with us Jocelyn Porter, who's a wellness advisor for international students. So she will also be joining the panel to answer some questions from everyone this evening. So again, you'll be able to post the questions in the chat. But to begin with, we will start with actually a bit of a presentation from April, who will be taking us through some tips and advice. Oh, and just to mention, we will be providing the PowerPoint, I believe, and also the recording of this evening session after the event. But I will hand it over to April. I'm just actually going to share my screen so that
Thank you, Joelle. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is April Callow. I am the Student Life Associate at Campus Life Engagement here at McGill University. I am also an alumna from many years ago. I graduated from mechanical engineering, and I'm from Montreal originally, but actually lived in the US for 10 years. I was there lived in Michigan and Connecticut as well, with my husband and 2 children who were both born in the US, and then moved back here in Montreal 2 years ago. So welcome everyone. We're going to do a quick poll before I begin my presentation. Just kind of want to know where you are all at. So the question is, why did you decide to attend this event? We'll take a few seconds to answer the poll. So most of you are here to discover first-year resources. Fantastic. Hear from McGill staff. Definitely, we have staff here. We also have current students and parents present. We would love to answer your questions. All right, wonderful. Well, good thing I'm making this presentation because I will be providing resource specifically for the first year. Thank you so much. So again, my name is April. I'm from Campus Life and Engagement. But first of all, I want to shout out to our hosts here today from the McGill Alumni Association. Jocelyn, if you can move to the next screen. So they're hosting the event today, the next one. And when you hear the word alumni, you think, you know, graduating and after graduation, but in fact, the McGill Alumni Association, they provide a lot of services and programs to help incoming students and parents alike to help transition into university. So like this event, today is one of the things that they are providing for you. So if you'd like to learn more about their programming, there's a link here and a QR code to get more information. As well, I'd like to talk about Campus Life and Engagement on the next slide. So Campus Life and Engagement is really the go-to hub for students to help discover and explore opportunities at McGill so that students can learn, grow, and succeed. So through our program and activities, we help connect students to opportunities, facilitate not just new students, but returning students into the McGill community. And along the way, we support students' academic and personal development, as well as promoting and encouraging co-curricular involvement. And so we're kind of the go-to hub, and we're the ones actually organizing a lot of the orientation events that we hope that you will be taking part in before your first day of classes. So we're going to the next slide. So from the time that you register, we are here every step of the way. But Campus Life and Engagement focuses specifically for the first year. And why is that? Because we find that it's really important to help ease the transition, right? From coming from high school to moving to a new country, if you're coming from the US, which is the case, I think for most of you, acclimatizing to a new culture, living in Montreal, and specifically into the McGill community. And so I'm going to talk a lot about some resources that we have available here. McGill is a huge institution, and it's fantastic in a sense because there's a lot of help and resources available for you, especially for your first year. And so in the next slide, we'll see specifically what is available for the first year, even just like happening right now, even before you arrive on campus. So we hope that you've checked your emails because you've received a pre-arrival email, and we have webinars. We had a lot of webinars in helping you register through McGill Pro. There's even a bunch of McGill Pro webinars happening currently as well. There's a specific one happening in 2 weeks at the end of, actually next week, the end of the month on the 27th. There's a student panel. It's called What I Wish I Had Known, and they're just going to share tips and tricks on how to navigate your first year, even your next years at McGill, as well as entering a class Facebook of 2022, and a Discord group is currently up and running. And so it's a great opportunity for you to sign up and be able to ask questions to other students before actually meeting them here on campus. As well, if you look in the middle of the page, there's a link. If you haven't checked it out already, I highly suggest you do so. So it's mcgill.ca/getready/welcome week orientation. And in that website, it will provide you with everything that you need to know, from Frosh information to all the orientation events. There's a lot of workshops. On the 23rd of August, there's going to be a service fair there's a street called McTavish. So it's going to be taking place outside. There's going to be free food. So a lot of resources available for you. We have therapy dogs there, so on and so forth, like lots of fun things. So all of that information is going to be on that link, as well as other departmental faculty specific and school specific orientation. So depending on what faculty or schools that you're a part of. Also, we have first generation support, off campus and commuter support for those students that are not living on campus, Francophone student support, mature transfer student support, and we also promote co-curricular records and other experiential learning. And new this year, we have community connections. So in the next slide, we're going to look at two students who've given us some tips on what they feel like they want to share with you, the first year students, and what they found useful. So we're going to look at Brittany, who's currently a McGill art student, and she is a first generation student. And she felt like she had a sense of belonging through the first generation student group, and also through the new student mentorship program, and along with Skills 21. Skills 21 allowed her to take classes in leadership skills and other skills to help her learn in her classes in undergrad, as well as learning her rights on campus as a student through the Student Personal Rights Responsibility in the Office of Dean of Students. So I'm just going to break this down in the next slide. You'll see that she highlighted the Office of the Dean of Students, right? So that they can help and advocate for your rights here on campus. And for those of you who are first generation, hooray, there's a group, and she's part of that, for support, and also just a chance to meet other first generation students. And I mentioned Skills 21. Skills 21, they provide a lot of really awesome, super dynamic, like workshop-based skills development. Really, really fun. So I highly suggest checking that out as well. And in the next slide, we're going to be hearing from Daria. And Daria is actually a recent graduate. She's graduated in the spring, and she is heading off to continue her studies in South Korea, doing her master's. And Daria has some words of advice for all of you as well. And so she felt like she was able to connect with a lot of students on campus, and also within the McGill community and Montreal community, through various mentorship programs, and also through campus life and engagement. And as well, she was very involved in her departmental student association, because she was in science. And so she would like to encourage you to take part in that as well. So in the next slide, I'm just going to break down tips that Daria shared. So in Student Helping Students, there's a website which basically lays out all the different mentorship programs that are offered on campus, which is fantastic. There's the International Buddies program through the International Student Services, and there's some departmental buddy programs as well. And she talked about specifically in her faculty, the Science Undergraduate Society. So she was very involved in that. Not only was she able to connect with other students, there's peer tutoring and mentorship program, but she was also able to seek out a lot of opportunities in the summers to, where to work related to her field of study. Specifically, I know that she was doing lab work through her program, and also through the Science Undergraduate Society, she was able to kind of make the right decision to lead her to pursue graduate studies, which she's about to embark in this fall, and as well as campus life and engagement and helping her connect. In the next slide, I'm going to start laying out more resources for your toolkit, but I want to highlight this wellness wheel here on this slide. And so in this wellness wheel, there are different parts, right? So financial, mental health, and they're all interconnected. And if you think of it this way, if one part of this wellness wheel, for example, the financial part or the mental health part is suffering, then it affects the whole wheel. So it will affect the academic well-being of the student. And so at McGill University, we want to make sure that there are resources available for you for your holistic well-being so that all of these components are taken care of. So I've kind of broken down resources based on this wheel just to help you. In the next slide, we're going to highlight academic and career resources. And again, you will have access to this slide. And when you click on each of these points, it'll bring you to the link for resources. So there's different academic advising, all departmental and school related. And I highly suggest that you seek out, depending on your faculty, some of them will contact you, but a lot of times you're the one that's going to have to advocate for yourself and contact them. So I highly suggest that you do that. There's a lot of tutorial services as well. Teaching and learning services is called TLS. I mentioned earlier, the McGill Writing Center and the Centre d'Enseignement du Français, which basically says if you'd like, as you're coming to Montreal, if you'd like to take some French classes, you can do so there. And career planning services, they will help you make proper steps to help you with your career path after your time at McGill, and Skills 21, which I mentioned earlier. And along with financial resources as well, there's a scholarship and student aid, Frugal Scholar is available, and Internship Offices Network. And in the next slide, you'll see there's a group called MORSL, so MORSL, which stands for McGill Office of Religious and Spiritual Life. And they will provide, there's a lot of groups actually under that umbrella to help with your spiritual well-being, along with our athletics and recreation for your physical well-being. So for those of you who love to do sports, or even those who don't think you're very athletic, but you are open to trying something new, that's something that I really tapped into. I tried a lot of sports that I've never even heard of before through intramurals. You can do drop-ins, you can, go to the gym, and so on. So there's just a lot of opportunities, and not only to be active, but also a great place to connect with other students, and as well as your emotional well-being. So there's a student wellness hub, peer support center, local wellness advisors are available to help you out, and the Healthy Living Annex is there. And lastly, there's lots of social ways, ways to connect with other students socially through SSMU, which stands for the Student Society of McGill University, clubs and services. There are a ton of clubs on campus, almost to the point where it's overwhelming, but it's exciting at the same time. I was part of the snowboarding and ski clubs. I love to snowboard, so that was great for me. But there's a ton of opportunities. So check that out before you come on campus and get involved. Equity at McGill, First People's House, Student Helping Students, which I highlighted earlier, Residence Life, that's good to check out for those of you living in residence, and so on. Oh, and I want to highlight the last one there, International Student Services. I highly suggest you check that out because they have a lot of information related to everything related to coming to McGill, from just with visa stuff, or how to get a credit card, like phone, everything. So I suggest to check that out. So I hope I didn't bombard you with too much info. I just want to highlight that there's a lot of resources available for you, students and parents alike. And if you have any questions, you can email us at firstyear@mcgill.ca. But I highly suggest you check that link, mcgill.ca/getready, if you haven't done so already. There's a lot of information there specifically for you. So we're going to end this presentation and open it up to questions. But I hope that this was helpful for you. So thanks.
Thank you so much, April. So much information, and absolutely check those emails. And if you don't like checking email, follow the Instagram, because I find that really useful as well. And I certainly know that my daughters spend a lot more time in Instagram than checking their email, and it's very useful. Excellent. So now is the time. I see there are a couple of questions that have been posted and a couple of questions that have already been answered. I invite you to continue posting some questions, and I'll sort of try to keep an eye on this while I'm also listening to our panelists, who I want to give them a chance to introduce themselves. I'll be introducing, or letting them introduce themselves, both Neil and Christopher. So starting with Neil, if you could unmute yourself, and I know in particular you're very eager to talk about the U.S. Parents Leadership Council.
Yes, hi. Can everybody hear me?
Excellent.
Good. So my name is Neil Merker. My wife Anna and I have 3 children. My 2 daughters. I have one graduate. She graduated in 2020. She's currently getting her PhD in classical studies at Cornell University. My other daughter will be a junior, where she is majoring in history and art history and who knows what else. We live in Englewood, New Jersey. My daughters are 4th generation McGillians. Actually, my wife is from Montreal. We got involved several years ago. We were contacted about helping to found and launch the U.S. Parents Leadership Association Council. And we joined, and it's been a great way to learn about McGill, get involved. Sometimes as a parent in the U.S. with your child in Montreal, you can sometimes feel a little disconnected. And I have to say that my primary goal in the primary goal in joining the Parents Leadership Council was to get more involved with McGill. There are seminars and salons and where we get to talk and meet with deans and see what's going on academically and what the issues are. And we feel much more connected to the school, having been a part of the council. We've met a lot of, it's been a great way to meet other parents and, talk about issues. So we feel it's been a great connection for us. And I think McGill's done a great job in trying to build this organization. And we had a great time at the McGill's 3rd century celebration in New York City, where we sat at a table with other Parent Leadership Council parents and got to meet everybody in person. So I really encourage everybody to reach out, and we'll be happy to send information on the Parents Leadership Council. McGill's been a great experience for my children. I can actually speak if I can, very briefly about my daughter who graduated in 2020. As you may have heard, she graduated with majoring in classics with a minor in philosophy. McGill's a big place, but she managed to make it small. The classics department is not the biggest department on campus, but she met great mentors, great professors who had her back, both at McGill and all through her application process when she applied for her PhDs. And as one of the slides from one of the students mentioned, my daughter was also a member of the arts, the AUS, the Arts Undergraduate Society, where she represented the classics department in external affairs, so was involved in student government, et cetera. And that was a great experience for her. So I just want to kind of, tap on top of that. But just getting back to the Parents Council, I did this last year. I probably shouldn't. If you want more information, you can reach out to me at Merker, MERKER, at verizon.net. If you have any questions, and I'm happy to make any introductions if you're interested. Several parents did that through me last year, and I'm happy to facilitate that. So thank you very much. And I wish you all the best in your first year. It's a great school.
Thank you so much, Neil. That's Lovely introduction. All right, so now I'd like to hear a little bit from one of our current students. So Chris, I know you're excited to talk a little bit about something you're passionate about, which is the open air pub.
Yeah, so I'm very involved here at McGill in a lot of our different kind of student networks. One of the big things here at McGill is open air pub, or commonly known among the student body as OAP, which we have dubbed the best place on earth. OAP is a music and art festival held biannually on the front lawn of McGill campus, right in the downtown campus, with a barbecue and bar at its center. We welcome around 5,000 to 6,000 new students every day over a 10-day period from around, this year it'll be from August 22nd to September 2nd. It's a great opportunity when you're first getting into Montreal or in your first week of classes to go with new friends, get to know each other, enjoy some music, some great student atmosphere. Yeah, what else I'm also involved in? I'll also be a frosh leader this year at Orientation Week. So if any of you guys have questions about Orientation Week, I'd be happy to answer. I'm involved in clubs at McGill as well. I'm involved in the Vertical Flight Society, which is a drone club here at McGill. I can speak about getting involved in clubs and how that works as well. And I can talk about living in res, coming and moving to Canada from the US without ever having been to Canada or Montreal before. So yeah, fire away.
And apologies if I missed this, but also you're in engineering at the moment, correct?
Sorry, yeah, I'm entering my 4th year in mechanical engineering.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so I see there are a few questions that are popping up, and some of them are being answered, and a lot of them have to do with, I think, some practical information. But maybe one of them that I'll pick up on, because it touches on a really interesting topic, and that's residences. So someone who is asking about how it works in terms of the payments for residences. But I thought, I don't know if maybe, Neil, is this a question that you could answer? Oops, we lost Neil. Chris, did you live in residence?
I did. I lived in New Residence Hall. If I remember properly, there's different payment plans. It's all through the McGill Minerva student database, which you'll learn about as you get into McGill, and you're able to pay your monthly bills, e-bills through there. It's usually included in your just tuition bill. So I think you can pay either monthly or for the whole semester. Not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's flexible, super easy to understand, not something to worry about. Yeah.
And what was your experience living in residence?
Residence was a great opportunity to meet other students. I know in the first week, everyone's moving in, so everyone's kind of outside in the halls, kind of talking, getting to know each other. At McGill, it's always where are you from? And it's always a different answer at McGill, which is really great. So you're going to meet people from all over the world. And yeah, I made some of my closest friends in res first year.
And how was the food?
The food is up to interpretation. I'm kind of I didn't have that big of an issue with it. It's a debit system. So you'll start off the year with a fixed amount of money, and you'll go in and you'll be charged for each item you kind of take out. So there's usually a hot meal, a grill where you can order hamburgers, hot dogs, stuff like that. And then depending on the different halls, they have burrito bars, pasta bars. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, stuff like that.
It's pretty varied. And I think even just, if you have dietary restrictions, I know that they're very flexible. There really is a lot of choice there too. So
I have a really severe food allergy, and I was able to manage it perfectly fine. Just contact your food manager of your res and make sure they know who you are, and you'll get through it fine.
Yeah, it's important to know. Very reassuring for both students and parents. There's a question here I find interesting. What can we expect from freshman week? So that when
Yeah.
you first arrived, what's it like?
So freshman week, we don't really call it freshman week here at McGill. It's either orientation week or kind of the colloquial among students is called frosh. So you'll move into res, I think around this year, it might be around the 23rd or 22nd. Not sure, might be the weekend before or whatever. And then their first day will be Discover McGill, which is a great day. Where you'll go and walk into Molson Stadium and you'll meet everyone in your year will be there that day. And that's where you'll meet your orientation leaders for the week. How you sign up for orientation is really simple. There'll be orientation tents on the front lawn of campus, and you'll sign up for the orientation of your faculty, or there's other specific orientations if you don't want to partake in that. There's like dry broshes, but that's something you can research on your own. And you'll sign up for the orientation of your faculty, which essentially is the college equivalent from the US. So there's faculty of engineering, faculty of management, faculty of arts, etc. And you'll sign up for that faculty orientation week. And then it's kind of just a great big celebration of McGill for like a whole week. There'll be restaurant crawls, concerts, field day. Just a great opportunity for you to meet other people in your year, in your faculty specifically. And that's all going to be like organized by students themselves. It's completely student run. McGill has very little involvement in how it's planned. It's all completely student run, which is also great. So they're organizing the best possible experience based on their own for you to get to know people. And then also you'll be in kind of groups, teams throughout the week where I'll be leading as well. So what leaders do is we'll be kind of a point of contact to help you guys, answer any questions, get you settled in to McGill life. Highly recommend doing orientation week. I am still best friends with people from my orientation week group. We actually still live together off campus. But yeah.
I also want to add to what Chris said. There's also some dry events as well, just to highlight, there's so much happening, and there's, again, faculty and school specific orientation that really highly suggest you join, as well as to Discover McGill, which is happening on the 23rd of August. Lots of free things. It's dry events, and there's just a lot of information and really fun things, and a great way to connect with people. So along with the student run frosh events, which I highly recommend as well. There's a lot of events being run by McGill itself, and it's all on the Get Ready website. And I think frosh, the registration will be starting, I believe, the first week of August. Is that correct, Chris? There's information and dates. Registration will start soon, either the last week of at the last week of July or the first week of August.
You can register until the day of a frosh. I know people that signed up the day of. So yeah.
It's not open yet. So just, for those of you who really want to sign up, it's not open yet, but it will be soon.
Yeah, definitely important to sign up. There's a question that I find really interesting, and I think maybe I can tie this in to give Joss a chance to speak a little bit. And it's regarding the options for students for American Thanksgiving and what happens at American Thanksgiving. And I think we can come back to that question, but I thought this would be a nice opportunity for Joss to talk a little bit about, being a little bit homesick maybe, and how McGill supports our students through that, because that can be a challenge for first year students, certainly.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just take a moment and introduce myself. My name is Joss Porter, and I'm the local wellness advisor for international students at McGill. So I kind of wear two hats. I work both with the Student Wellness Hub, which is the campus health clinic, counseling center, etc. But also, because of the nature of my job working with international students specifically, I work very closely with ISS, with the International Student Services that you heard April talking about earlier. So two important student services to be aware of, both housed within the Brown Building on McTavish Street. So you'll find that when you arrive. But yes, American Thanksgiving. So first of all, our Americans are our second biggest international group. You're in very good company at McGill. And you may or may not be aware that in Canada, we celebrate Thanksgiving earlier. I don't know why exactly. I suspect maybe because it gets colder earlier and maybe we have an earlier harvest. So we have Canadian Thanksgiving in in October. And there's also the fall reading break around that time. So students get a couple of extra days off, a little breather. But unfortunately, that does not line up for all of you who celebrate American Thanksgiving. And in fact, late November tends to be a really busy time in the school year. Often undergraduate students in particular are quite busy with, midterms and preparing for finals and writing all their papers. So I do meet students who are able to go home, depending on maybe how far away home is. So for those of you coming from Vermont or Boston, New York, maybe it's doable to go home for the weekend. But for those of you who are from further away in the States, maybe that'd be less possible. And yeah, definitely, Joelle, that's a good point that it can be a tough time for our students who can't go home, right? Because we recognize it is an important holiday in the States. So, I think that's a really important time to connect with your friends, right? If you're living in residence, as Christopher mentioned, you're going to be meeting students from all over. Many of those students will be Americans, but also lots of students from elsewhere. Maybe it'd be a good opportunity to plan your own little mini Thanksgiving here. Maybe you could host something, show your friends the foods that you like to eat, that kind of a thing. There could be ways of celebrating in your own way, but yeah, it can be tough to be away from friends and family at that time. But know that the holidays are coming around the corner too, the Christmas holidays, so there will be an opportunity to go home soon.
Absolutely. Now that we have Neil back, still on that note, I think it might be interesting to ask you to highlight some ways that you sort of supported your daughter in her first, particularly through that transitional year and perhaps throughout her studies at McGill?
How I supported her?
Yeah.
Actually, I have to say that's actually a tough question. I'm always trying to, I guess, really help both daughters in the sense that just knowing maybe some of the resources, hey, go into like Oasis, ask questions. I'm trying to move them to get help, go in and talk to their professors, try to learn, try to get to know your professors. It is, during office hours, take advantage of that. And I think both of my kids have done that very well. Again, my daughter who graduated also did something very interesting. She was able to do research with one professor through the, I think it's called ARIA, which is the arts research grants, where she did research for one professor, one of her classics professors during the summer. Just another way to touch base with professors, which can lead to various opportunities like that. And to, again, because McGill is a big school, there is bureaucracy in it. It's not like going to a small liberal arts school in the United States where there are lots of touch points. You have to make your own touch points. And what I try to do was encourage my kids to make their own touch points, because that's the best way to kind of get involved and make the school seem smaller.
That's an excellent point, actually, and it's something that we actually bring up when we're in recruitment, is that one of the things about coming to McGill is that your children really become adults. McGill, we have lots of servants, but we're not necessarily here to coddle them, so they really grow and mature a lot during their time at McGill.
Yeah, I would definitely second that, and I think both daughters would say the exact same thing. You're on your own. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It teaches you life skills and how to be independent. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that ought to be encouraged as well.
Absolutely. It's an important lesson to learn. Do you have anything to add to this conversation, Chris, as a student who's soon going to be graduating from McGill? Some of the resources that you found really useful to help you throughout your time?
Yeah, so definitely like coming in first year, it's a little daunting just at the scale and size of McGill. Like I came in from a 100-person per class high school, but it's something that I also kind of enjoyed in a way that like in high school, I felt like I always had to be on, I always had to be like I had to be there. Like I was always had to be, I could kind of like form my own path when I was at McGill because it was so big and it was so nice. I could be very independent, which was really nice. But I also do crave kind of sort of a community. And that's kind of what I found in my engineering undergraduate kind of society community is that I've gotten really involved there. So that keeps it also small at the same time as also being a part of this. You kind of forming your own microcosm within McGill will really help you, thrive and have the right resources, asking friends for help, getting in contact with professors. Like this summer, I'm doing summer undergraduate research and engineering is probably really similar to what Neil spoke about for his daughter, where I'm involved with professors and also other students doing research. So try to form that kind of microcosm in McGill by being involved in different things. It'll really help you, survive.
Absolutely. And really one of the things I think when I speak to McGill students, what often comes up about what they like the most about McGill really is the community, because it's so diverse and the students are just so curious and enthusiastic and it's really stimulating, right? Okay, so maybe a bit of a switch in topics. Let's talk a little bit about course registration, because I know that is something that is often at the top of students' minds around this time of year. So I guess I'll direct this question again to Chris, but in terms of course registration, do you have any tips, any bits of advice that you would like to offer to the students?
Yes. Make sure before they open on Minerva, you have your course schedule already planned out. Know exactly what you want to take, what times, know everything. Have it all planned so that when you're open, when that window opens to register, you're ready to go and you can get into all the classes that you want. Visual Schedule Builder is the best tool for forming your schedule to make sure it's the classes you want and it's the times you want. There's also great resources like Get a Seat, which are like independent student created kind of websites where you can actually, if a class is already full and you want to get on the wait list, you can put that class number into Get a Seat and they will text you or email you at any time to tell you that a seat is open and then you can go right away and register. There's also McGill Enhanced, which is a Chrome extension that you can add, which will allow you to one-click register from Visual Schedule Builder. So you'll create your schedule on Visual Schedule Builder, and McGill Enhanced will be a little pop-up. You just click Build My Schedule, and it'll just build your entire schedule like that.
So this has generated a couple of questions about course registration. One of them, regarding when do you start registering as a U1, so it's a student coming in with AP credit. So course registration has begun already. So your student can already start registering for courses. And then there's a question about what happens when a class is full. And your student hasn't registered yet. Like, what do you have any advice? I know one of the things to keep in mind is that sometimes there's a bit of a shift, in particular during that ad drop period.
Yeah. So again, get a seat so that you can get in if it does open up, if there's a seat. And then so the first 2 weeks of every semester is called ad drop period. So that's where you still have time to add courses, drop courses. Before it's kind of like solidified for the semester and you can't change it after that. And so during that time, tons of things are changing. So don't feel scared if you're not in a course yet, because during ad drop, there's going to be kids that are dropping classes, adding classes. So don't feel like you're not going to get into a class. There's tons of movement during that period. And even during ad drop, like at McGill, like most of the class sizes are pretty large. Go to the class if you want. Go see like right away. Turns out you don't like the class, then you might not have to not take it in the first place if it's full, you can go to almost any class if you want to. It's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that drop period, I believe we were looking into that yesterday. I think it ends on September 18th. So by September 18th is that deadline where you can sort of shift around your classes very, very easily without any sort of penalty.
I should add that during ad drop, there's no coursework. So professors aren't allowed to give assignments or anything like that. So you have time to figure everything out without the stress of having to complete anything for a class. And so if you're not in a class yet, don't feel stressed that you're missing out on, grades or anything like that. So
I also want to add, if you are needing to take a class that is a prerequisite, or like a class that's really important and for some reason there's no space, there will be other sections that will be opened up for you. And for some reason, if those are full as well, then I would contact the professor and they'll do something about it. But you will be able to take the class that you need to take. And as Chris mentioned, there's a lot of movement during the first day of classes until the ad drop period, where the classes that are full, there'll be room as people will drop those classes and there'll be a lot of shifting around. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, it's very, very reassuring. So there's some questions about banking, and I feel like this would be a good question for a parent perhaps to talk about. Any tips in terms of some of the practicalities of, you're helping to set up payments and that sort of thing?
That's directed at me, I assume.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
It's a little bit more difficult for me to say because both of my daughters are Canadian citizens. So I think it was a little bit easier for me. I don't know if there are any other prerequisites if you're a US person, but typically speaking from what I've seen is that the students, open up accounts. All the bank branches are on Sherbrooke Street, right outside McGill, RBC, etc. Toronto Dominion, they're all there. I think most of the kids just open up, checking accounts there, and it's rather easy to make transfers and do what you need to do. But my kids had social insurance numbers and were able to do that on their own. So it's hard for me to give advice to strictly U.S. citizens on that. So I apologize.
I can speak to that. I did everything actually on my own. Without my parents' help, so I can kind of tell you it's really easy. I know some banks will actually be setting up during orientation week on campus to help you set up your bank accounts. I know there'll also be resources on campus to get you your social insurance number right away on campus during orientation week. So do those two things. That'll be important. I recommend going to do that before you get into the chaos of the school year. I actually didn't do either of those first year, which I regret. I just kept a U.S. bank account my first year because my U.S. bank account was fine. Just taking out money from any ATM, it wasn't a big deal. But then when it came time where I had to make other payments, I just walked into a random TD bank. I walked in with my study permit, my passport, and on the spot, they have great student plans where you have no fees, nothing like that. They are really helpful. It's really, really easy.
Yes, and one of our parents pointing out that the U.S. parents, the McGill Facebook group is a great resource, and it's true, that there's a lot. I sometimes I'm in there and I see all the comments going through, and it really is a great resource to connect with other parents as well and get some advice. This is a question that was actually sent to me directly, but I think it's a really interesting question. It's related to student success in the first year. So Melissa, who's asking how many courses are recommended for new students in the first semester. And I know that, so you're a full course load, 5 classes is full course load, but you're still considered a full-time student if you're taking 4 classes. I know my daughter actually, her first semester, she dropped one of the 5 courses because she decided she wanted to ease a little bit into it. And the great thing is that if you do that, you can make it up by taking a summer course, or actually in her case, she has a summer internship that is related to her field of study. So she is being accredited the full course. So 3 credits for the internship. So she's getting paid and making school credit, which is awesome. But I don't know if anyone else would like to add a little bit of advice in terms of academic success that first year, how to ensure that you're doing well. I think Neil is excited about this.
I'll chime in on that. And actually, to the overambitious, especially that first semester, I wholeheartedly would advocate just taking 4 classes the first semester. It's a lot to adjust to. Many of the kids are coming in with AP credits, etc. On their way to the 120 credits or whatever it is that you need. So you have a little bit of wiggle room. I would use it and take 4 courses the first semester and ease your way into it. And then, like you said, with an additional, summer course, research, archaeological dig, whatever it may be, you can make up the 3 credits somewhere along the line or through summer school or whatever. That's my wholehearted advice.
Mm-hmm. I'm on the same page with you there, Neil. What about you, Chris?
Thanks.
I did take 5 classes my first semester, but one of the classes wasn't a full course load. So it still was 5 classes, but it was under that 15 credits that a normal 5 course load would be. It was a bit of a, transition for me, like the course work. It wasn't so much like the amount of work I had to do. It was like preparing for, big midterms and big finals, which for me from a small high school was a big transition. I was used to a lot of assignments throughout the semester and kind of just working, at the same pace the whole semester. Well, at McGill, especially in like a science-based STEM degree, it's like a lot of midterms, a lot of finals. So I had to cram a lot because I wasn't used to studying in the same way. So as I've progressed, now I know how to study better, know how to like manage that. So definitely take it easy your first semester. There's some big hard classes that a lot of STEM kids end up in. Like I know Calc 2 is a really scary one for a lot of people, linear algebra. And so take it easy. Enjoy your first semester as well. Like have fun, that's how you make, meet people, get involved, do all of that and take a little less coursework. Probably the best advice.
Absolutely. I can piggyback on that too. I agree with all these comments so far. And I meet students a lot in the clinical work I do as a mental health professional and students who come in with like super high expectations of themselves and they're used to getting those 90s in high school. And it's quite a humbling experience that first semester, right? Where all of a sudden you're not the big fish in the small pond, you're the small fish in the big pond, right? And all of a sudden you're working really hard for those B pluses maybe. And so it can be quite jarring. So just, really from that mental health perspective, that wellness perspective, adjusting your expectations of yourself. If it feels more manageable to go down to 4 classes and you can swing that credit wise, that is definitely worth considering. Sometimes I meet students who are trying to do even more than, 5 credits or 5 courses rather, 15 credits is definitely full time, but sometimes we meet students who are trying to do even more, which is very, very challenging. I wouldn't particularly recommend doing that. But then also keeping in mind that as American students, you are international students. There is a requirement from Immigration Canada that you be full-time enrolled, and full-time is for 4 or more courses or 12 or more credits per semester. So that's one thing to just remember. The one exception to that is in the final semester, international students can drop down to part-time at that point, but there can be some immigration considerations. It's not impossible to go down to part-time, but it has to be justified often. So if ever you're considering doing that, I strongly recommend consulting International Student Services about that decision.
All good advice. So I'm keeping an eye on the clock and we are getting towards the last few minutes. So before I go to my last little bits of house cleaning, a few remarks and thank yous, I just wanted to give panelists a last chance to just highlight one bit of advice? Like what's the most important thing, most important bit of advice that you would like to give? I'll ask Neil to give to parents, and I will ask Chris, what would you say to students? What would be your advice?
Have fun, like enjoy your time at McGill. Like this is probably going to be the prime years of your life. These 4 or 5 years. Don't get too caught up in the grades, the schoolwork, and all of that. It's very important, but you're not going to succeed in that if you're not having fun outside the class as well. So make sure you're making connections, finding friends, getting involved in communities, and enjoying your time.
Good advice. Absolutely. We get so caught up in the academics, especially McGill students who we know are excellent students, but you have to have fun too. Neil, do you have any advice for the parents out there?
Well, again, as I mentioned, as a member of the Parents Leadership Council, I think it's a great way for parents to get involved with McGill, know what's going on. I know my wife is also on the McGill Parents Facebook page every so often when issues do creep up, and so she wants to get the temperature of other parents and see what's going on out there. In terms of your relationship with your student, I think we kind of said it. I wouldn't, I tend not to coddle. I would not coddle them. Let them grow, let them mature. Give them parameters. We were talking about even course selection. If you're going to take 5 courses, don't take linear algebra, calc 2, bio all at the same time. Don't take 5 hard courses. Take 2 hard courses, 2 medium courses, an easy course. That kind of advice, I think, is well suited for your children. Guide them, but don't be on top of them.
Absolutely.
Be smart.
Absolutely good advice. And by the way, I see Kay Kay just posted the link to that Facebook group, the International Parents Facebook group. So turning over to Joss, what would you give as your most important advice that you could give to the group?
Well, yeah, I think picking up on what Christopher was saying, try and have fun, take advantage of these first few weeks. The weather will be beautiful. September in Montreal is amazing. October too is a really lovely time before school gets too busy, before you have midterms and a lot of deadlines. Take advantage of that time to connect, to make friends. If you're living in residences, that's a really great place to do that. If you're not living in residences, don't worry, there's other opportunities. Luckily, the plan is that instruction will be in person this year. We also, know that probably a lot of you are coming off of challenging high school experiences just because of the pandemic, right? So give yourselves this gift of enjoying yourselves, making those connections, and that's going to serve you well throughout the winter when it starts getting cold, when you don't want to be outside so much, unless you're a snowboarder like April, or also, when the going gets tough with school, you're going to have some good support systems in place at that point.
I want to add to that, actually. Just you talk about winters in Montreal. I don't know if we've talked about that. If you're from the United States, yes, September and October are beautiful. It gets a little colder after that. And the best thing you can do, and I mean this sincerely, is to be prepared. And I mean clothes-wise. A good winter jacket, good boots, everything, because it is an adjustment. And the more prepared you are and the warmer you stay, and the better it's going to be.
Absolutely.
I actually give a workshop in International Student Services. We give a workshop called Winter 101. So for anyone who's coming from more southern climes, strongly encourage you to come. We get into all that nitty gritty, like what types of boots do you need to buy, etc. It's very helpful.
Yeah, if you come from a warm state, maybe wait till you're here because we have the good stuff to keep you warm. April, your advice.
Yeah, I have some words of advice. I agree with everybody's advice. And my advice would just be, have an open mind and have an open heart for things to not go your way, for your path to go a different way and meet people and experience different things that you otherwise wouldn't experience. I think that's the big thing that I learned at McGill. I grew so much. I met some amazing people in places that I never thought I would meet them, in random places in the hallway, outside, in the middle of a rainstorm. I mean, you name it. I'm still friends with them to this day. So have fun, be open, and it's okay to make mistakes. That's my other advice. I'm excited for all of you. Yeah.
I love the don't afraid to be mistakes, because my little bit of advice as an alumna and a parent is it's okay to fail, because my very first exam at McGill, I failed. And my daughter also in her first semester had that lovely experience of failing an exam at McGill. And by the way, this does not mean that you fail as a student. I graduated with high honors. My daughter has an amazing GPA. She got an A- in that class, even though she failed the midterm. So, it's just see a failure as an opportunity to become stronger and to overcome that. And let me tell you that you overcome that challenge and you're so proud of what you've accomplished. And that's part of life, right? So getting a little philosophical there, but that is part of life. So thank you so much to the panelists for your wonderful words of advice. I'm sure that everyone really appreciated it. I certainly enjoyed listening to you and speaking with you this evening. I want to highlight that the send-offs aren't over. Continue checking email, continue checking that Instagram if you're following the Instagram to look for more invitations. In particular, in August, as we move towards move-in week and orientation, and during that time as well, we have Parents Tent on campus. So there are some activities specifically for parents who are accompanying their children to campus for move-in. And again, I just want to thank University Advancement, our Alumni Association, for helping to organize this evening for everyone tonight. And lastly, I just want to congratulate everyone and wish everyone great success and an amazing experience, an amazing journey through their studies at McGill. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Born from a will, made here by dreamers and risk takers, by makers and big thinkers. Through trial and error, we face what's ahead, staying true to the voice that never fails us. Keep learning. We were made for this. Made by lamplight and late nights, by salut and goodbyes, by questioning everything and feeding our curiosity, by testing our resilience, by finding our limits. By pushing forward and by breaking through, by finding a new way, our own way. We're made where ideas are built and built upon, where we come together and we rise above. We are made by McGill.